Hello, everybody. Sunday Adelaja here. Welcome to another day of deliberation on self-leadership. Now, today's topic is called Self-Leadership is Self-Responsibility. Self-leadership equals self-responsibility. Please go ahead and share this message with as many people as you want, as you can, and go look for your friends and family members and share. Go and share the message with them and go and put the message in their inboxes. It could help somebody tomorrow or in the future. So, what is self-responsibility? Basically, responsibility is actually known as the price of greatness. You are only as great as how much responsibility you are ready to take up on yourself, put on yourself or take up. You are only as great as the responsibilities that you are ready to be responsible for, to take up to put on yourself. So the price of greatness is responsibility. There is nobody that has ever become great anywhere without stepping out to take responsibility. And leadership is responsibility. So you are only as great to the degree to which you are ready to be responsible for something, to take responsibility for some things. So the price of greatness is responsibility. If you take responsibility for a city, you will only be known in that city. So your greatness is limited by that city. If you take responsibility for a whole country, the nation, your responsibility, your influence will go to the level of that country. If you take responsibility to only for your family, you are only known to your family members, or maybe to your neighbors. If you take responsibility for your church people will recognize who you are. So you are limited by your responsibility. Your influence and your greatness is limited by your level of responsibility. So it is where you are, what amount of responsibility you are able to put on yourself that actually determines how great you will become, And God wants us to be great. So what is limiting us? We ourselves, our willingness or unwillingness to take on responsibilities. So responsibility is what defines your greatness in life and your influence. The amount of responsibility you are willing to take on yourself is the amount of power and authority you will get. The amount of responsibility you are willing to take is the amount of power and authority that will come to you. Look at the great people in the Bible. The only reason why they have become great is mainly because they are willing to take responsibility on themselves. If you talk about someone like Joseph, well, he took responsibility for Egypt. And is it surprising to see him become the prime minister of the land? The amount of responsibility that you are willing to take determines your greatness. Now, I cannot but talk about one of the persons that you people know very well, right? You all know Mayowa very well, because it's a very real situation. When she was in London and she was not doing anything public, she was not taking responsibility for what she's doing now, for bringing sanity to Christianity. Nobody knew her. It was like she was only known to herself and to her community, to her people around her, that her relatives and family and church members, maybe at her workers, just. But now she's a world phenomenon. Why? Because she took responsibility for the whole body of Christ, and especially today in the area of African churches. And then the whole world is, no, even they don't like her or hate her, your greatness, your influence, your Your the level of authority, your influence of power, or is limited by the amount of responsibility you're taking. Now, let's now say that Maiwa or me or anybody else is not addressing this issue of churches, but we are only addressing the issue of politics. Our influence will jump right from the issues of church to the issues of politics. And then the authority and influence will come to the area of politics. It is to what you are ready to take responsibility for that is what determines your authority. I have a whole book on this. It's called You Are Born to Make Your Nation Great. You are born to make your nation great. It's about personal responsibility. How an individual citizen can change his own nation through personal responsibility. Through personal responsibility. And and I have another one book that is called The Sin of Irresponsibility. What happens to people when they are irresponsible? So, but personal leadership, if you really want to be a leader and be known as a leader, your leadership is going to be defined, and your influence and authority is going to be defined by your willingness to take responsibility. So I really want to encourage everybody that is looking at me right now, that is watching this program, to fall in love with taking responsibilities. Fall in love in being responsible for everything, for anything. Fall in love in taking challenges upon yourself. Fall in love with it. That is what makes you significant in life. Your significance, your essence, your value is determined by the amount of responsibility you are willing to take on yourself. Be a person of responsibility. Don't just close your eyes and say you don't care what happens around you. Take responsibility for somebody. Take responsibility for those children. Take responsibility for those orphans. Take responsibility for your political system. Take responsibility for your culture. Take responsibility for the right thing. Take responsibility for the truth. Take responsibility for the body of Christ. Take responsibility for something for God's sake. That will cement your legacy and your memory on earth. So the price of greatness is responsibility. And if you really want to exercise what we call self-leadership, let it start with you taking responsibility for yourself at first, then take responsibility for the people around you, take responsibility for something that is your burden. Let your burden always determine the responsibility that you take. Don't just go everywhere, jumping from one thing to the other. No. Look inside yourself first. Find out what you have burden for, what you care for, what concerns you. Look into your story, into your history, what pained you, what puts you, what oppressed you, what concerns you, where's your moment of pain and moment of love? What do you love? What pains you? And then determine, your area of burden. So once you discover your area of burden or area of calling or sphere of influence, go there and take responsibility for something there. Maybe you take responsibility for children, for women, for men, for something for Christ's sake. Take responsibility for something. So let me try to give you a few steps. I'm going to give you some points here on responsibility. I want to give you steps on how to develop responsibility, how to make yourself a responsible person, and how to be the kind of person that is taking responsibility for issues in life. I mean, remember the story of David? The only reason why David became so famous and so great in the history of the world, but not just the Jewish nation, but everybody knows who David is because he was willing to take responsibility. I mean, the king of the land, like Saul, was not even willing to take responsibility for his own country that he was responsible for. He was shickling out of the war, of the Goliath challenge. But David stepped up and faced Goliath. And that responsibility that he was willing to take defined his legacy and his destiny. So, what are the steps that you need to take to be able to be a responsible person? Number one step, be responsible for your life. Take responsibility for yourself. And the very first thing you want to do in taking responsibility for yourself is take responsibility for your self-development. Take responsibility for your self-development, which means self-education. Add value to yourself. Become a person of value. Number two, create a value chain in you Be valuable in different areas. Add skills, develop skills so that you will be needed in different areas. You will know how to do many, many things. And there is no way that your society or people around you will be able to ignore you because you offer so many things. You bring so many things to the table. But also, work on your personality, your character, who you are. Be kind, be loving. Don't be hateful. Don't be overly critical. Be fair. Be a person of justice. Be a person of kindness. Be a person of compassion. Work on your personality. Be a God person. Be the image and likeness of God. That's the first thing you have to start by doing. Resemble God, copy God, emulate God. And that is what will be the basis for your character, for your reputation, and for your integrity. So that's the very first point of responsibility. Take responsibility for yourself, who you become. Unfortunately, most of us who have become what the environment has shaped us into. Because I'm Nigerian, I talk like a Nigerian, I dance like a Nigerian, I laugh like a Nigerian. I cannot do much about that, but I can do something about who I become going forward, moving forward. So I can still change things in my core person and my core values and in my content of character. So you need to take responsibility for that and formulate for yourself the kind of person that you want to be. Not just the kind of person that you happen to be because you grew up in a certain country or because you were raised in a family, but become the kind of person that you think God wants you to be. Create your new self. Give life to yourself. I wrote a book on that. It's called I'm a Person. Am I a Personality? And then there's another one that's a man or a mouse. Give life to yourself. The next point that I want to talk to you about that will help you to become a person of personality, apart from taking responsibility for yourself, is that you should take responsibility for what you do. If you take responsibility, if you are in charge of anything and you said that I am going to be in charge of this, I am going to do this, always make sure that you stick to it, at least to the best of your ability. Sometimes, of course, things happen. You might need to, give up on some things. But most of the time, if you tell anyone that you are going to be responsible for cleaning this place, make sure that you take responsibility for that place to be clean. Don't look at anybody else that, somebody has come to make it dirty or something. No, make sure that you don't give excuses. You are responsible. Somebody just came in and somebody did. No, not somebody. Forget about somebody. If you are responsible for that, take responsibility for it. Stop blaming people for what you are responsible for. So to be a responsible person, to be a person of a self-leader and a self-responsible person, you make sure that you don't trade blames. You don't pass blames. If they say, go and make that call, don't come back to me and say, he didn't pick it up. I didn't get through to him. He was not there. Do anything that you need to do to make sure you get him. If you call him, he's not picking up, write him SMS message. If you write him SMS message, he's not, go to his Facebook or your social media account. Go and inbox him something. If you inbox him, he's not, write him an email. If you have done that, it's not, go to his WhatsApp. If you've done the WhatsApp, it's not, go to the Twitter. So do something, my friend. Get to the bottom of the work. If you are responsible for something, make sure you do it to the best of your knowledge. Do it the best that you will not leave any stone unturned. You will not leave any stone unturned. You will make sure that you have done your best. You have actually given more than anybody else would do in your situation. So you make sure that you do exactly what you're supposed to do, that nobody would do better than you in that particular situation. So be responsible for what you are responsible for. If you are in charge of something, make sure you do it to the best of your knowledge, that nobody will ever do it better than you. Finish what you start. Finish what you start. Finish what you start. Finish what you start. Don't just start something and take off and disappear. Finish what you start. Next point that will make you and help you to be responsible is that you need to learn to be responsible for what you have received. All of us have received a lot of things in life. Be grateful for what you have received and be responsible for them. The first thing you have received is that you have received your family name, your father's name, your mother's name, your mother's integrity, your father's integrity. Be responsible for that. You are born in that family, so play your role in that family. Show some responsibility. Be grateful. Do something for your family, people. So when you have people today who would rather give tithes and money to church and will not give anything to their mothers and to their fathers or to their family members, that is irresponsibility. You are not being responsible for the people who have given you something. If anybody has given you something, be responsible for what you have received. Anybody that has given you something deserves that you also give them your time. You give them your faithfulness. You give them your you give them your time, your service. You give them what you have. So the people who have given you something, the top of the list are your parents. Then your maybe immediate family members. Be responsible to them. Pick their calls. Give them a call once in a while. Be kind to them. Offer them something. Give them what you can afford. So you have received something. If you have received something, you are also responsible for that thing. So the same thing for pastors. A lot of pastors, I've been criticizing a lot of pastors, right? But I don't criticize individuals. I'm criticizing more of their doctrines. So whenever I mention the name of an individual, I'm actually not against that person. I'm not hateful towards that person. I'm just trying to amend and correct the doctrines that they are practicing, which is wrong. But if a pastor or an individual, especially in pastors, because a lot of pastors have invested in a lot of us. So if you have received from a pastor or from a church, they have invested into you. Be responsible for that. Even if their doctrines are not right, make sure you are good to them to the best of your knowledge. Make sure you are responsible to what they have given you. You are thankful and you are grateful, and you might still challenge their doctrines, but you must still be good to them as individuals because of what they have done for you, because they've been good to you. So be responsible for whatever you have received. Maybe some of us who grew up in Africa, we were actually raised up by relatives. Or maybe relatives have played more role or better role or greater role in our lives than our parents or our closest family members. Well, if that is the situation, well, you have to be responsible for that kindness and for that love that person gave you. So you need to go and reciprocate the kindness, the love, to the level that you receive from each person. So if the greater love in your life was given to you by your family, then give them the greater amount of love. So that's why it's wrong for you to, a lot, especially for the ladies, for girls. Girls will wake up in the morning, get some message from somebody who say, "Oh, I love you," and send them some poem, and then they say, "Oh, I'm ready to be your husband, to be your wife, to be your husband." Okay, then you go and marry. Then we say, "Okay, I must be faithful to my family now because this is now my family," and you forget about your father and your mother. That is irresponsibility. Tell me, who has given you more? Who has given you more in your lifetime? Is that your husband that you just met 1 week ago, that is beating you up, that is messing you up, beating you up, abusing you in the house? Are you going to be more responsible towards that one than towards your mom that gave you 20 of her years and that made you who you are? So what I'm trying to say is that be responsible for people and for people's contribution in your life to the degree of their contribution. So, for example, one thing I've discovered is this. Maybe it's not like this in Africa, but I guess it might. You know what I've discovered with my own experience of pastoring is when a young woman like that goes to marry, and she just says, "Oh, I'm all in my family," because in Europe, yeah, people are more about family, nucleus, understanding of family. So when they marry, that their family, husband and wife, is their family now. And they just almost forget about their fathers and their mothers, and they remember them once in a while, but it's not a big deal. Like my family, my father and mother are living their lives, we have our own family now. So, but you know what I've discovered? God forbid. When that woman gets into trouble, like the guy beats her up. You know where she goes? Only one place to go. That mother and father that is no more my family. They have their own family. You know, they have my father, but they have their life. They become the only rescue because they are the ones that really love you. But even more tragic situation. Let me tell you more tragic situation. When that girl gets breast cancer, for God forbid, you know who sits with her in the hospital? You know who sits with her in the hospital? You think it's that husband, eh? That's so much in love that that she cut off everybody for whose sake she cut off everybody? Because the husband is more interested in what he could get from you, not what he could give you as such. But your parents, they didn't need to get anything from you. They gave everything to you. So when you get cancer, not you, but when that lady gets cancer, you know what the husband says? Well, I need to go to work. My work will not allow me. My job, my work. But the mother, she doesn't think about her work. She thinks about that daughter. My daughter is sick. I must stay with her in the hospital. It is always about your mother or your family. But your husband, you are lucky if he doesn't find another one before you come out of that hospital. You are lucky if he doesn't find your girlfriend before you come out of that hospital. That is just life. Your girlfriend would have taken your place before you are out of that hospice. This is life. And what does this teach us? Always be responsible for the love that have been invested in you. Be responsible to be more grateful and thankful to the degree of the investment and the people who have invested in you. So if your parents have invested more in you, don't let anybody break that relationship. Be responsible to their love. You might have your disagreements, but love them, be thankful, be responsible to whatever you have received from them, to the love that you have received from them. So it doesn't matter what, always be responsible for the thing, anything you have received. It's not just, it could be anything. Be responsible for whatever you have received. Because to whom much is given, much is also required. So if your mom and your parents give you more is required of you too. If little is given from that your husband, then little is required from you. To whom much is given, much is required. All right. Let me quickly go and give you another one. Be responsible for those you lead. If you are a leader, be responsible for those you lead. Be responsible, first of all, not in the sense of money, but be responsible to teach them the right thing. Be responsible to speak the truth to them. Be responsible to be honest with them. Be responsible to them in being honest to them. Be responsible to them in being truthful with them, in teaching them, in guiding them, in correcting them. Be responsible to them in making sure that you are transparent with them. So that is if you are a leader. But also, if you are under submission or if you are being led, you have to also be responsible to the responsibility that of being a follower, of being led by somebody. You know that the person that is leading you is taking responsibility for you, so be responsible for them. Don't disappoint them. Don't let them down. Because by them allowing you to follow them, that is a trust. They are giving you their trust for accepting you to follow them, to mentor you. If somebody is mentoring you or is teaching you or leading you or guiding you, be responsible for them. Be grateful for what they are giving you. Be responsible and be accountable for them. Not just be responsible, but be accountable for the leadership that you have. Be accountable to them. Accept accountability. Accept probe even. Be under submission. If somebody is leading you, be leadable, be submissive to them, and be grateful to them. All right. Another thing I would like to say, do I have more time? Okay. Another point that I would like to give here in terms of responsibility is develop integrity. Be conscious of being the person of your word. Especially when the integrity is basically, living a life of not having anything to hide or fear. A life of transparency. When you are, of course, all of us have something to hide, right? None of us will ever be transparent to the end. Because some information don't belong to the public. Some information belong to you. Some information belong to your family. Some information belong in the private relationships. But still, in your own conscience, try to, live a life of openness, a life of no secret, a life of, no fear. You don't need to live in fear that, something will come out, somebody will hear something. Be responsible for what you do. Even if you make mistake, be responsible for that mistake. Even if you sin, be responsible for that sin. Even if you do something that is wrong, don't mind it. Just know you are not perfect. You are just human. But be responsible for what you choose. Nobody is demanding perfection from anybody. Anybody that demands perfection from you is either religious or is hypocritical. Nobody is perfect, even including the person who is demanding that perfection from you. But you have to. Integrity is for you to be honest with your sin, with your weakness, with whatever you do. Take responsibility for it, and be responsible and live in a way that you don't have to hide. Confess it, say it. Let people know that you don't fear what you have done. You are not afraid of what you've done. What you've done consciously and with intention. So you don't live in fear, and integrity will help you not to live in fear, and it will help you to be more open with yourself, first of all, with God, and most of these things, openness, integrity. The most important integrity is with God. You know that you are ready to open up to God. Know that you are ready to confess to God. Know that you are ready to let God know the truth. If God knows the truth and you tell him the truth and you admit the truth with him, then you are safe. Just go ahead. Then with people, it just depends on what people need to know. You don't have to bring everything out to everybody to know. There are some things that your family needs to know. There are some things that your wife might need to know. There are some things that your wife will need to know, but your neighbors don't need to know. There are some things that your children might need to know, but your workplace doesn't need to know. There are some things that your household might need to know, but your church doesn't need to know. So, just make sure that you are before God as transparent as possible. So that means you are trying to your best to make sure that your life is an open book. Open book before yourself, open book before God, and before people. So you live what you teach, you do what you say, and you are honest with people to the best of your knowledge. But one of the most important things in integrity is the willingness to put others above yourself. And this is where we all run into trouble, because most of us want to put ourselves above others. And if you listen enough to American motivational speakers, you might think it is all right to put yourself above others. But really, it's not. It's the golden rule. It's actually the scriptures to put the interest of others above yourself. And that's when we really struggle with integrity, because whenever you are putting your interest above, you will always have problem with integrity. because you'll be looking for selfish interest. You'll be looking for your own interest. And as long as you are looking for your own interest, you cannot be honest. You cannot be objective. You cannot be fair. So that the reason, one of the reasons why you have to put the interest of others above yourself is for you. It's for you to be fair. It's for you to be honest. It's for you to be just. It's for you to be objective about life. And it will help you to be transparent and even vulnerable if necessary. Yeah, so, yeah, I think that's what I will have to say today about responsibility, self-responsibility. I hope the points that I've given today will go a long way to help a lot of you. And please, let's go ahead and share this message. Share the message with your friends and family members. And yeah, you might want to inbox some people too. And for those of you who want to join our mentorship program, it's for free. You can join by going to sundayadelajablog.com/mentorship. sundayadelajablog.com/mentorship. Then for those of you who want to be receiving our messages on your WhatsApp, just write our WhatsApp number here and yeah, send to us your WhatsApp number or your number, and we'll be sending you every day some messages in short ones that you will not need to spend too much data washing. Our telephone is +38 098 596 3838. Well, I guess that's all for today. I mean, for today, I will be back with you tomorrow by the grace of God. So, peace.